Hello and welcome to today's lesson where we're looking at Locke's goal-setting theory of motivation. Now, this theory is a great framework to use when setting goals for yourself or for your team. The theory is based on research showing that with the right goals you can increase both productivity and motivation. Now, Locke and Latham, the two guys who developed the theory, were able to demonstrate that when you set specific and challenging goals and you receive regular feedback on your progress, then your productivity and your motivation will increase. Now, this applies whether your job is highly complex or low in complexity. So whatever your job right now or whatever your team do, then this theory can help improve productivity and motivation. Now, as well as showing the types of goals that can increase motivation, their research also showed how not to set goals. They found that setting unspecific or vague goals failed to increase motivation. Now, that might seem really obvious to you that setting vague goals like this won't increase motivation or performance. But the thing to understand here is that the first person to realize and prove this was Locke. So, why does goal setting increase productivity? Well, there's many reasons. So, number one, goals keep you focused on what's important. So when you get sidetracked, you quickly realize that the distraction isn't moving you towards your goals. Two, goals make you more persistent. Now, it's natural to have days where you're super motivated and other days where things aren't going so well. So having goals that you're committed to can give you the determination to push through the difficult times. And thirdly, goals help you rise to the challenge. If you're committed to achieving them, then stretch goals can help you to achieve more than you really ever thought possible. So according to goal-setting theory, to be motivating and increase productivity, goals need to have the following 5 characteristics: clarity, challenge, commitment, feedback, and task complexity. Now let's examine each of these in turn. Firstly, clarity. To be motivating, goals need to be clear. When a goal is clear, it's easy to understand exactly what you need to achieve. It's not open to debate or interpretation. Now, conversely, when a goal is vague and imprecise, it's difficult to know if you've ever achieved it. So which do you think is a better goal? Increase customer satisfaction by 15% or do your best to increase customer satisfaction? It's the first one, increase satisfaction by 15%, because it's more precise. Now, there are a number of steps you can use to help you set clear goals. And the first is to use SMART goals. And SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And there are many videos on YouTube or articles on the internet you can Google to find out more about SMART goals. The second thing you can do is you can ensure you understand exactly how you know that you will have achieved your goal. And the final thing you can do is you can ensure you have a metric you can use to track your progress towards your goal. Now, the second factor is challenge. And to be motivating, goals need to be challenging, but not too challenging. Now, a goal that's too easy to achieve won't motivate you. It won't cause you to up your game and increase your performance. And similarly, a goal that you perceive as way beyond your current capability won't motivate you either. It might actually demotivate you. Now, for a goal to motivate, it must hit the sweet spot between challenging you but not over-challenging you, is what we're trying to say. So, for example, too easy might be increase customer conversion rate from the present benchmark, but too challenging might be increase customer conversion rate by 700%. But just right might just be increase the customer conversion rate by 10%. So how do we set challenging goals? Well, firstly, ask yourself honestly if your goal is too easy, too challenging, or just right. And secondly, think about what scenarios might arise to slow down your progress towards your goal. Plan ahead. So you could perform some scenario planning to determine how you're going to push through these challenges if they arise. Now, 3, we have commitment. For a goal to be motivating, you must be committed to it. Likewise, if you're setting goals for others, you need to ensure that they are bought into those goals. So as an example of no commitment, you simply decide in a meeting with your boss what your team's targets will be, and then dictate those to your team. Your team are not going to be committed in that example. As an example of commitment, you work with your team to determine together what the targets should be and how you can hit them. If you do that, you'll get the buy-in of your team. So how do you gain commitment? Well, 1, agree that targets are realistic and sensible with each member of your team, and ask them explicitly if they buy into each goal. Now, if any rewards are associated with hitting targets, ensure that they are wanted, desirable, and the process of deciding who gets what is transparent. And finally, keep yourself on track by visualizing what it will mean to you to hit your targets. How will your life be different if you hit the targets? How might your career be different if you hit your targets? Number 4, we have feedback. In order for a goal to continue to motivate you as you work towards it, you must receive feedback. Now, for feedback to be effective, there must be a goal. Feedback must be received regularly, and both positive and negative feedback should be welcomed. Now, it's worth knowing that if you're giving someone negative feedback, then make sure you do so in a constructive way. So, an example of good feedback is you set your team members some goals and you organize a weekly check-in to monitor their progress. A bad way to give feedback would be to set the team members goals and then forget all about it until their end of year performance review, whenever that is. So how should you give and receive feedback? Well, one way is to schedule a weekly check-in to monitor progress. You could use an app such as Strides or a spreadsheet to track progress. Or you can follow, there's a link below this video that you can follow, which leads to an article which will teach you all about how to give and receive effective feedback. So finally, we come to task complexity. Now, in order for a goal to be motivating, it must not be too complex or too complicated. Highly complicated goals can be overwhelming and even demotivating. So for example, good target setting might be break down complex targets into sub-targets so they're easy to understand, but a bad way of doing things is to simply set a complicated target and expect your team member to just get on with it. So how should you handle complex goals? Well, obviously break them down into sub-targets. And secondly, be aware that if your team member feels overwhelmed by a target, it might just be too complex. And if that's the case, consider reassessing the target and trying to break it down. So in summary, the key takeaway from the work of Locke in his goal setting theory is that goal setting, when done correctly, can be a powerful tool for boosting motivation and productivity. And that applies both when you're setting personal goals for yourself and when you're setting goals for your team. Now, Locke identified 5 principles to follow when goal setting, and these are that goals should be clear, challenging but not too challenging, explicitly committed to, involve regular feedback, and as uncomplicated as possible. Now, by using Locke's goal setting theory, you can keep your team and yourself motivated and productive. So that's it for this lesson. Really hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.